So, before we say anything, I just want to say I've been waiting for this all year. And I see MozCon as like the championship of the speaking circuit. So everything else is like regular season. MozCon, you got to bring your A game. So that's what I hope to do today. And I'm going to, springboard off of what Will was talking about. You see what I'm saying? Like doing real company shit. You know what I mean? So, does this thing work? Yeah. So content marketing is a great idea. And everybody that got up here today talked about it because, to be real, it's kind of trendy after Penguin. Like, it's the thing to talk about. But it's not as easy as we make it sound. You can't just walk in and say, hey, we're going to make a ton of content. It doesn't work like that. There are so many stakeholders that you have to convince. There are a bunch of people that don't understand the ROI. They're like, oh, you want to make content? No. And then there's people that are like, oh, it's way too much work. You want me to be a copywriter now and do graphic design and all these crazy things? No. So your team and your clients will drive you to drink or smoke, and your content might fall flat on its face. Because that's the risk you run with content marketing. So how do you sell content marketing? Well, essentially what you need is a compelling, data-driven pitch. And you need to sell your story to people, but you must always be prepared to do this. That's your cue, dude.
I'm telling you to listen to anyone, but this is a very fresh approach.
It's okay, Kenny. I don't think there's much else to do here, but call it a day. Gentlemen, thank you for your time.
Is that all?
You're a non-believer. Why should we waste time on kabuki?
I don't know what that means.
It means that you've already tried your plan and you're number 4. You've enlisted my expertise and you've rejected it to go on the way you've been going. I'm not interested in that. You can understand.
I don't think your 3 months or however many thousands of dollars entitles you to refocus the core of our business.
Listen, I'm not here to tell you about Jesus. You already know about Jesus. Either he lives in your heart or he doesn't. Every woman wants choices. But in the end, none wants to be one of 100 in a box. She's unique. She makes the choices and she's chosen him. She wants to tell the world he's mine. He belongs to me, not you. She marks her man with her lips. He is her possession. You've given every girl that wears your lipstick the gift of total ownership.
Sit down.
No.
So the point of that was that content is the glue to inbound marketing. And if we're really going to be content marketers, you need to take a stand. We are the experts that they are hiring. So don't say, oh, well, the client doesn't want to do content. What are we going to do? Fire that fucking client. That felt good. So what we're going to talk about today is how to make that case. And somebody said to my girl last night, they were like, oh, is he just going to give another list of tools again? No. I'm going to give you something that you can actually do. So there's definitely going to be tools here, but it's for a reason this time. It's not just a list. So we're going to do research that's going to stick with people, essentially. And this is what the content marketing process looks like for us. We start from opportunity discovery, and I'm going to go into each of these things individually. And then once we figure out what that opportunity is, who that audience is, what's going on in that market, we figure out what the topics are that are going to resonate with those people. And at that point, it becomes a really collaborative process. So we're already doing outreach before we even come to the table about the content that we are going to create. Because the point is for us to have a list of people that say they want this content. And then from there, we build the content. And then we launch it, we place it, we do outreach to get it a little further. And then ultimately, we do measurement because we need to show why this was a good idea. And I mean, that doesn't sound like anything crazy to you. You should be already doing this. But for me, opportunity discovery is the key differentiator here because if you guys read my new SEO process post, SEO people don't really do market research. And for me, I think that is something that everybody in this room should be doing. You need to really understand what's going on in that market and who you're talking to. And so to that point, from there you move on to audience research, understanding who's out there in that online conversation, and then asset inventory, because they may have some awesome content that is just not formatted in the right way for content marketing. So those are quick hits. And then you do your keyword research, which we already know how to do your competitive analysis, and then your measurement planning. And again, I don't know that too many SEOs take measurement planning as serious as they need to, because measurement is what sets us apart. All these other channels, obviously they're measurable, but we have intent. And since we can map that intent to the conversion, we are probably the most qualified people to do digital marketing. But we don't get that love. And this is all about getting that love. So when we talk about measurement planning, don't talk to me about rankings. Don't talk to me about traffic. Talk to me about conversions. If you're not speaking in terms of conversion, you're not showing your true value. And at any moment in time, a higher up can be like, what are they even doing? They're getting us rankings? What does that even mean? But again, obvious stuff. So let's keep it moving. Market research. For us at iAcquire, that is a really important thing, like I said. We hired a guy that used to work in Nielsen for like 7 years, and he does these things we call the client one sheet or the client dossier. And he builds out all the personas. He pulls in like market insights, customer insights, resources, hot topics, influencers, the whole nine. And everybody in iAcquire that touches that website has a copy of this. So everybody that works on the client has working knowledge of that space and that client. And I think that's a key differentiator that we should all adopt. So from there we build personas. And I'm pretty much the personas guy at this point. I'm always talking about them. But if you don't understand your audience, who are you talking to? How are you creating content? How do you know that content's going to go anywhere? So we create personas, based on demographics, lifestyles, the user story, the user needs, the same stuff that Jonathan was talking about earlier, where you create that story so you can put yourself in that person's head. And I actually did I did a Mozinar a few months ago where I showed you guys how to make what I call quasi ad hoc personas. There's two types of personas. There's ad hoc personas and then there's data-driven personas. And ad hoc personas are typically like when you get a bunch of people in a room, they put Post-its on the wall and they're like, who is in our audience? What do you think? What do you think? And essentially I showed you guys how to do that with social media, blog discussion search, just a regular keyword research and stuff. And it's a cool process, but the problem with that is two different people could look at that data, and it's so subjective, and they can come up with two different sets of personas. So when you take that to a client, they're going to be like, where'd you get this? We don't believe this. So I've actually changed our process. Now, the point, again, about personas isn't about it being completely right. This is a quote I got from Donald Norman from the Nielsen Norman Group, and he said, a major virtue of personas is the establishment of empathy and understanding the individual who uses the product. So it doesn't have to be completely right, it just has to give you a great understanding of who is out there. But even so, we changed our approach because nobody wants to get called out, you know what I mean? So now we start from Nielsen data, and then we put Experience Simmons data on top of that, and then we use social inventories. So tools like YouTube and LinkedIn, Facebook, DoubleClick, they all have the social inventories in them, the same way that you're using the AdWords keyword tool to understand, who is searching for what. I'm not going to talk too much about those because that's what Marty's going to talk about. But essentially, we use all that data to really fine-tune our data-driven personas and make them socially relevant. So from there, we build the personas, of course. And it's a really cool process. So Nielsen Prism is actually this initiative that Nielsen set up where they have segmented everybody in the United States into 66 personas. So everybody that always complains to me about, oh, personas take too long. You ain't got to do shit no more. Just get this. And they make them for you. And so the way Prism works is it's based on zip codes. I'm about to show you something real cool, especially for the people that do local search. Now, if you put a zip code into this tool, it's called My Best Segments, it's going to give you the top 5 occurring prism types that occur in that space. So you have, just from putting in a zip code, your 5 personas for whatever you're trying to do. Now, this tool is actually $1,000 a year, but the link I gave you right there gives you that tool, like the free version of that tool. And it's going to give you the top 5, but it's not going to tell you how highly they occur. You'd have to get the paid tool for that. And you also get the breakout of that actual persona right there. So you click the lifestyles tool, and it tells you all about them. But there's way more data that you can get out of this tool. Like I said, it's $1,000 a year, basically what mods cost. So yeah, if you like personas, do that. Then what we do is we use Experience Simmons, which has even more data. So all the stuff is based on surveys and census data and stuff like that. But Experience Simmons is really cool because it allows you to get attitudinal, interests, and opinion clusters based on selecting a few different questions. And so it'll automatically build those personas for you too. And the other thing that it does, so the way that Simmons works is they have something similar to Prism. They have mosaic types. And the link down there has a list of all the mosaic types and all their, their features and such. So what you can do is you put a URL into Simmons, and it'll give you the propensity for that mosaic type to visit your site. And the same thing with their online activity. So you can really quickly get a sense of who these people are. And then Google also has an awesome tool called the Google Consumer Surveys. And it's essentially basically what Nielsen does, but you can do it in not real time. You can set up yourself with your own questions against the people in the DoubleClick network. And the way this works is you define what type of survey it is, you specify who your audience is, write questions, and then you get data back. Matt Cutts actually did one of these recently, and the question that he asked was how many people know what SEO means? And he got back only 20%. So it's a real cool way to get exact answers from the audience that you're trying to go after. Now, Yahoo Clues. I love Yahoo Clues because you get the demographic data per keyword. So once you've built your personas, you can go to this with your keyword and see if the segments that you've built fit into what's already out there. So it's a good way to validate. And I made you guys a persona worksheet because I've been kind of an asshole about personas and not telling you guys how to do them. Now you have an Excel worksheet. We have an actual example worksheet in there for how we would have filled it out. So download that, have fun. You need to tie everything that you're doing to the consumer decision journey. And I say this because typically in SEO, we classify keywords as transactional, informational, and navigational, which I still don't understand. Why would you go to Google and type in Facebook or go to Yahoo and type in Google? Who is doing that? You know what? Sometimes I do keyword research and I get scared for society for the things that I see. So anyway, everything that you're doing, you need to tie to this conversion funnel right here. So if you're doing your keyword research, map these keywords to where you think your persona is gonna be. So for example, if I'm typing in, when do roses bloom, I'm probably familiar with the idea of flowers. I'm past that awareness phase, So you're actually trying to figure out what content ties with each phase in that funnel. So when you start talking about the content that you want to create, where does it fit best? People that are looking for infographics are not ready to buy anything. So while they get the most coverage and the most links and what have you, that is not going to tie to your ROI the way that you think it is. So when you're doing these quick hits for your, when you're first bringing up the idea of content marketing, you may not want to start from the infographic. You may want to start from the guide because people that are, looking for information on how to buy the flowers or what have you, they're at a point where they're all ready to buy. So think about that when you're creating your content because ultimately you need to tie everything to ROI. And back to that idea of measurement, the way that you measure different things is different as well. So like I said, the people that are, looking for infographics aren't typically the people that are looking to buy something. So you don't want to measure those basically by conversion all the time. You want to measure them by the things that make the most sense. Because if you're like, oh yeah, we're going to make you infographics, your conversion is going to go way up, you're going to look like an asshole. And I don't want you guys to look like assholes, you look awesome. I need to stop saying asshole. So My mom's gonna watch this and smack me. So one of the most powerful things that you can do, I can't remember who said it earlier, it might have even been Will just now. What are their competitors doing? When I worked for LG, anytime I came up with an awesome content idea, they didn't give a shit. Unless I could prove that Samsung had done it or was about to do it, they wouldn't listen to me at all. So some quick ways for figuring out what the competitors are doing to show what you can recreate. So the Facebook recommendations plugin demo is awesome. You can quickly put in a domain name and see what are some of the most popular content on that domain. Now, out of the box, this thing only has about 300 pixels. So if you stretch this to 1,000, you see 20 of the most popular pieces of content. Let's take that a step further. Social crawlytics. It's like Screaming Frog for social numbers. Basically, you put in a domain and you put in the level, the crawl depth or what have you, and it's going to crawl the whole site and give you these pretty charts about the share numbers. And the next, you also get this, this table of all the URLs with their share numbers. So use that to figure out what is the content that's been shared the most. And you can also use that later when we talk about the idea of share rate and scrape rate. So don't go showing all that data just yet, because that's not a story yet. When you're pitching, it is all about the story, and we're going to get into that. But before we even get to that, you need to get buy-in from people, because somebody said earlier, I think it was Patty, somebody asked, how do you get people to buy into this because you don't know how much return is going to be as far as like the links that you're going to get. This is how you get that number that you can call your shot with. So everything that you build should be stuck to an overarching big idea. Content marketing is not about being an isolated incident at all. It's about tying back to something, a story that this brand is telling. Because essentially we're turning these brands into storytellers. And it makes sense. I mean, brands have always been big storytellers. Where do you think soap operas came from? Exactly. So when you're doing that, there are actually seven archetypes that work very well for this type of storytelling. And I can't really read them from here, but I think one of them is like Overcoming the Monster, Voyage and Return, Rags to Riches, so on and so forth. A good example of overcoming the monster. You guys remember that Volvo commercial with the little kid that was dressed up as Darth Vader? That's an example of that. So stick to those archetypes with these stories that you're telling, because the brands understand these things and they're known to work. Also, this whole buy-in structure is all about this feedback loop between yourself, your audience, and your client. So you're going to come up with ideas and you're going to run it by both sides. Because essentially, you have to get buy-in on both sides. You have to get these people in the audience to say they're going to link to this stuff, they're going to share it and what have you, before you even build it. So that way, you're not wasting your time at all when you build this content. And then you'll be able to call your shot. So based on historical analytics and what have you, you'll know that X amount of traffic results in X amount of conversions, so on and so forth. So if you can say that 30 people are going to share this, or 30 people are going to link to this, and X amount of people will see it, you can say exactly what you believe will happen. And to that point, you don't want to overpromise anything. You want to stick it to something that you can definitely call your shot with. So if you've got 50 people with awesome sites to link to you, say that. Don't say that you're going to get hundreds of links from this piece of content. Keep it real, and they'll love you for it. Oh, yeah. So I like building things. And now I have a team that can build the things I ask for. So we all know that Google is moving towards this author graph. And so what we did is we built an author search engine. And obviously, it's still in beta, so you guys can play with it, but don't expect it to work perfectly. But essentially what we're trying to do is give transparency to that author graph and make it easy for you guys to find authors by topic. And the way this works, it looks like this. So you search for a keyword, and you get authors and their content. And then you can click on the OSC link, which we want you to click on, of course. And you get their link numbers, or their link numbers, of course, for that piece of content. So you can find people quickly just from keyword searches. GroupHigh has a similar product for finding, influencers, bloggers, and such. It costs a lot more. Ours is free. Use Author because that's going to help me to get more resources to build it out a lot more. So the more you use it, the better I look, the better it gets to be. Also use Topsy. So if you have brands that have popular content, throw it in Topsy. Quickly find the people that shared it, liked it, and you can easily start up a conversation with this new piece of content that's tangential and get them to link to it as well. So you know they're already interested, just use that as a way to get back to them again with new content. And you can also use Follower Wonk, About Me, Zerply, Find People on Plus. But the key here is that since you're doing personas, you can use other key attributes of these people other than just these regular keywords. So instead of searching for flowers or 3D TV, you know this certain segment of people is interested in the Discovery Channel. So you can put those type of keywords in there and find the same people. Beauty of personas. Now, share rate and scrape rate are really important things, especially when you're doing things like guest posting and putting your content on other people's site. There's actually an idea by John Cooper, and I kind of expanded on it because he was just talking about throwing a piece of content in-title into either in-title or in-URL into Google and finding out how many people scraped it. What is the propensity for a site to be scraped? Now, the example that I use in this post here is I wrote the post on just how smart are search robots for SEO mods. And due to that, being that everything that goes on SEO mods gets scraped hundreds of times, I now rank number 8 for Googlebot. So you need to be looking for that type of stuff to see where you can get the most out of the content that you're creating. Here's an audience worksheet, because like I said, you're collecting all this data. Just a real easy way to keep it in one spot. And we also built a broken link index. So both of these indices are built on what's called the common crawl. And it's like a section of the web that's been crawled and stored on Amazon Web Services. And it has about 9 billion pages. So we've used this to extract features to create an index where you can find broken resources on the web. Essentially things that no longer exist that people are still linking to. And you search by keyword to find a piece of content. And once you found a piece of content that you want, you go back to the Wayback Machine and you see, is that worth recreating? And you have a built-in set of links for a piece of content that you're creating. You can easily call your shot based on what someone is already doing to something that no longer exists. We talked about broken link building earlier. This is content-based broken link building. So brokenlinkindex.com, it's all yours. Content as a maximum viable product. I love this idea. This is actually a piece of content called What Happens When You Die Online. And what they did is they made the whole page an infographic. Then there was an infographic in it that was like modular that you could then share. And then there's a YouTube video. So those are 3 opportunities for you to build links and have social engagement from the same piece of content. Think about that when you're thinking about the content that you're taking to these people, because that way you can serve multiple places in that funnel with the same piece of content. Further, you are now ready for your pitch. Now, you got to put all this together. You got to think about how to be most effective with this, right? So here's 5 tips. 1, the focus is the story. The focus is not the data. The focus is the story, because you're reeling in real people to believe what you believe. It's like what Will was saying. I see this so clearly, but why can't you? It's because you're not telling a story that resonates with them. And that's what you need to do. So you need to also tie everything directly back to that ROI. Just like I was saying, where does that content fit in the funnel? You need to drive that point home. Like, we're going to create this, and this is going to do this. It's not about, oh, yeah, we're going to put this out, and you might get some links. That'd be cool. You know what I mean? And make sure you tailor this directly to the stakeholders. So don't speak, generally like, oh, here's what's happening in SEO right now. People are doing infographics. No. Here's what's happening in your space. Here's what's going to help you hit your goals. That's what you need to be doing. At that point, make sure that shit is beautiful. I've seen a lot of your deliverables. They are not very pretty. I mean, clearly I have a graphic designer working with me, so I make sure that shit is pretty. But I think as an industry, we don't take what we're delivering serious enough. Like I'm doing a post right now for SEO Moz where like I explain every deliverable for inbound marketing. And there's examples in it and everything. And one of the key things that I'm trying to drive home is that people don't take us seriously when we just like throw a quick, Excel sheet together and say, okay, here's what we want to do. Or you send everything that you're trying to do in an email. They're not taking you seriously. What you're up against is dudes like Don Draper, who are coming in with this awesome creative and being like, yo, look what we're trying to do. We're going to change the whole world. And you're like, yo, we're going to get some links and stuff. Nah, I mean? Nah. Again, I'm piggybacking off of what Will was saying, but that's real talk because these people, that's what they see all day. And then we come in, we're like, yeah, we're the SEO guys, we're going to do some keywords. Nah, doesn't work. And again, speak their language. Somebody over there said that in the question that they answered or asked or something. You definitely need to speak the language. So again, back to the idea of links and rankings and such, that's not enough because they speak in terms of things like share voice. And if you're talking about something that's alien language to them, your points are not going to resonate. So make sure you do that. Now, measurement, again, it's so important. What can you do to validate what you've done? Share a voice. What is that? Let's flown around a couple of times today. It's actually like a traditional advertising or traditional marketing metric. It basically says, of the available opportunities to market or advertise, how many of those do we have? It's a percentage. So in this case, I've kind of taken the idea of the most possible traffic you can get from a keyword. That's the 100% share of voice. So how much do you occupy of that? So based on the traffic that you should get at that position, that you should get at the position you're in, that would be your share of voice. So when you say that to a CMO or a CEO, they're like, yeah, I get that. So we have 40% share of voice. You want to take us to 100? Cool, let's do it. But when you say links and rankings, they're like, eh. Anyway, so keyword level demographics may be the coolest thing I have ever come up with since I've done SEO. And I definitely piggyback this off Matt Clayton, which I learned back here at MozCon last year. He talked about social design. And I took it a step further. I was like, okay, if you put your site on the Facebook Open Graph and you get all this data, match it up with search refers, you have demographics at a keyword level. And the way that you can apply this makes you so much more effective in driving conversion and such. So I encourage you all to have a look at it, because it's probably like my most underperforming post on SEO Moz, but it's also the best one I ever wrote. It's funny. And if you do get into this, here's just a couple or a few best practices. Incentivize the opt-in, whether it's having a community that they have to sign into Facebook to use, or giving away coupons or something like that, because people are really leery about signing in with Facebook, obviously for good reason. And the example I gave talked about tracking each different element of a persona. Rather than do that, just track the persona itself so you have less to deal with in Google Analytics. And here, this one's kind of, if you use keyword level demographics on a bunch of sites, use it cross-property, your app ID, because that way they don't have to opt into another site. Just saying. And if you do get them to use this, then cookie them and remarket in other ways, because you have so much data about these people that you can use that in other channels and be really effective. And another thing, if your site has profiles, like SEO Moz has profiles on a site, if you map that to conversion, then you can get demographics that way. And you're already getting your referrers, so you still have keyword level demographics based exactly on the data that you want. So that's a cool thing. And then there's userreport.com. And it's essentially a survey type thing that goes on your site, and it gives you that demographic data through those survey questions, and it also goes straight to Google Analytics in the custom variables. And this thing is actually really cool. Back to Yahoo Clues. I'm really keen, I guess you'd say, on Yahoo Clues, because you can essentially see how those demographics per keyword change over time. That could be a potential KPI. If you're like, hey, the content that we're making, we want to change how people are searching based on the content that we're making. And you can see that happen through Yahoo Clues. I've been trying to get Dwayne Forrester to bring Yahoo Clues to Bing, and he told me that the only way that's going to happen is if everybody in this room tweets at him and says, hey, I want Yahoo Clues for Bing. So at Dwayne Forrester, I want Yahoo Clues for Bing. No, seriously, do it. And so I actually sent a tweet out a few months ago. And I was like, I know there's a lot of people out here having these same problems with content marketing where like they can't convince people to do it. Because we, like I said, we always make it like it's so easy. Oh, we can't get links? Make content. No, it doesn't work. So I asked them to tell me like what happened to them, so I could zero in on their problems. And I think it was Joel that sent me this one. He said that he had a client in the Echo, like green, you know what I'm talking about, the green space or something like that. And he was like, yeah, we're gonna do infographics. And he was emailing the guy. He was like, yeah, this is a really good idea, this, and this. And ultimately the client was like, I don't see the point of content. Why would I spend all this money? And I think the big problem here is that there was no like personal engagement with them. There was no walking them through what it was. There was no like presentation about why this is so awesome and why it ties directly back to that ROI and why they actually need to do content. So to that point, never, ever try and present these ideas via email. Go in person, give them a deck, give them a presentation, and wow them. And then someone else sent me one, and they were like, yeah, I presented to all these guys, and they were all about it, but it turns out that the two key stakeholders weren't there, and they came back, and they were like, why are you guys doing this? This is a bad idea. Never leave out key stakeholders, ever. Make sure everybody's in the room. Make sure you glad hand everybody. Make sure afterwards you take them out to dinner. Rand does that. And then there's a lot of cases where people are just like, yeah, let's do this. It's a really cool thing that we're making, and we like to make cool things, but if you're not showing them that value, again, they're not going to want to do it. So make sure you always tie it back to ROI with good measurement plans. Yeah. And then this one was actually kind of funny to me. There was this girl, she had all this data. She was like, you guys need to be doing this because of this, and you guys messed up because of this, this, and this, and she had data points that supported everything. You know what? Nobody likes those type of people. So, tell a story. The data should support the story. The data shouldn't tell you why you're a dumbass. It should be like, hey, here's why we should do this, not here's why you're an idiot. Now, oh, the TV went off. Oh, those TVs went off too. Yeah, it's past my bedtime. Okay, so I've been doing a lot of talking here, right? You guys want to see me pitch? Well, the pitch I'm about to do, it kind of feels a lot like this.
What about it?
See, I've been looking at what you're doing, and I think you're in desperate need of change.
And you're just the guy to do it.
I am.
We're at 50% market share in almost everything we make.
Because you have a big line of diverse and charismatic products, and you keep making more. Zip tape, styrofoam, Ravana. And why do you do that? Because even though success is a reality, its effects are temporary. You get hungry even though you've just eaten. At the old firm, we had London Fog raincoats. We had a year where we sold 81% of the raincoats in the United States.
Name another raincoat.
But we didn't stop working for them because 81% isn't enough.
But it doesn't change the fact that we're happy with our agency.
Are you? You're happy with 50%. You're on top and you don't have enough. You're happy because you're successful for now. But what is happiness? It's a moment before you need more happiness. I won't settle for 50% of anything. I want 100%. You're happy with your agency? You're not happy with anything. You don't want most of it. You want all of it. And I won't stop until you get all of it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for stopping by.
So, Rand, you're right there. Where's Anthony? Is he still in here? No? Is Adam here? I know Jamie isn't here. He had an emergency. So I'm talking to you three guys, right? So I got an idea for you. I shouldn't walk away from you when I'm talking to you. Now, we as SEOs have a pretty ridiculous dilemma. We have a lot of shit to do. And some of us are procrastinators because of it. Raise your hand if you're a procrastinator. Yeah, exactly. Some of you will get back to me, right? Okay. So the thing is, with SEO Moz, a lot of the tools aren't real time. Like, if I want to crawl something, I need to crawl a site, it takes you guys, 24 hours to do it. And because of that, I go to something like a screaming frog, right? Because I need to be on time with my work, right? Or, various other tools do the things that you guys do in real time. So that's how us procrastinators deal with what we have to deal with, right? And the thing is, you guys are in a really good position. Well, you guys are all procrastinators. We talked about that. So are you. And the problem is Majestic is gaining on you. They have released metrics and products quickly, like in the last year or such. And the thing in red is called Search Flow. They're actually putting that out today or tomorrow or something like that. Because I was at Search Exchange and I was asking everybody, would you guys want this tool? And then Dixon was like, well, I actually have something brand new that does 150 in 1 second. And you guys still own keyword difficulty right now. There's no reason why you can't give us more. Now, keyword difficulty is awesome, obviously. You guys made improvements like you were talking about today, and we love it. But the problem is you only get 5 keywords at a time. And I understand that there's definitely a technical issue here because, you can't scrape Google at that scale and expect it to work. But people want it. That's the reality of it. There was 22 people on your help thing. Hold on. I'm not done here. So, 22 people on the help forum, the feature request forum, have asked for it over the last 2 years. Plenty of people on Twitter say they want it. John Doherty says he'll link to it if you put it out. And you already know it's awesome, so again, I don't have to say that again. But here's the thing. You guys have $18 million now. We expect a lot more from you. So what I'm suggesting is that you add the keyword difficulty tool to the Moz bar. You're not selling anything. And to that point, the issue of crawling Google at scale is not your problem anymore either because it becomes client-side. Now, you can measure the effectiveness of this. I understand you guys are really focused on churn rate, really focused on how many people upgrade to Pro. You make that a Pro service. And you measure how many downloads from the Moz bar, how many links happen after that. Again, it goes all the way back to your bottom line. So you guys see what I did there, right? I told a story about you guys and your dilemma here as procrastinators. I appealed to Rand's competitive spirit with Majestic. I identified the need through you guys again, and I tied it to revenue. And he liked it. He'll do it. Cool. So I'm pretty much done here, but like I said, I've had an awesome year, and I wanted to thank some people because they've been awesome. My girlfriend, Britt and Bright, of course. And the people that helped me on this, these slides, my graphic designer and such. And then in general, the Moz community. You guys have been so awesome to me in the last year, so thank you. And that's all I got.
That was awesome. You're speaking my language with everything you said. That was fantastic. So let's do some Q&A, yeah? You guys have some questions?
Sure.
It's a little dark. Do we need coffee later in the afternoon? Or is everybody just afraid to follow that presentation, the last 2 presentations? I can't see anyone raising their hand. Yeah, that helps. Yep, we got one back there. All right, good, good.
Hey, Mike. You
Hey.
mentioned over here.
Hi.
You mentioned the problem of going from speaking about rankings and I guess all the links and all the terms that we tend to use as SEOs when you're speaking with clients, and actually, moving towards share of voice and all these things. In the space I work in, where we're a very small company, we work with a lot of other very small companies. And the major challenge I have is that all they talk about is links and rankings, and it's how do we actually get them to change that mindset and to move to what we want to do?
Well, I think the thing, who are you speaking to? Because typically the people that are speaking that granularly are not the major stakeholders. For example, like your SEO guy speaks like that, or your social media guy may speak like that, but the CMO does not speak like that. So who are you speaking to? Huh?
If it's small companies, we've got the head of the company. I mean, you're talking about big brands. I'm talking about we're working down at the level of very small companies, and often that guy who's actually the head of the company is trying to be his own SEO and his own marketer and all those kinds of things. That's the point where he comes to us and says, okay, I need help with this. But he's got this mindset because all he's heard about is links and rankings for the last 10 years, and that's what he thinks is going to get him dollars.
Well, it's the same as when they come to you and say, why don't you have a meta keywords tag? You essentially have to educate that person that what they're thinking about is not, necessarily what they should be thinking about. So again, rankings are not an objective. They're not a business goal. A business goal is for a small company to sell more stuff. So you need to make it clear to them that they need to be thinking about how does this affect their bottom line, not how do I feel good because when I Google myself, I see myself first. Cool. Mike. Hey.
G'day, how you doing? I'm Cameron
fantastic.
from Australia.
What's
I find a lot of the tools from the US tend to be US-centric. Have you got any clients that are based in Australia or whatever? And how do you deal specifically with personas? Both of those tools there, I would imagine, are American tools.
You mean the tools we made?
No, the tools that you mentioned there by Nielsen and Experian.
Oh, yeah. So I know there isn't a version of Prism for Australia, but there definitely is a version of Mosaic for Australia. So every country seems to have their own version of these tools.
We don't.
No, I'm telling you that they do.
No, those ones we do, but I mean, in terms of smaller products, we don't tend to have them as much, but that's cool.
Yeah. So no, as far as things really SEO specific, there's not, there are definitely some that are international.
Yep.
But in the case of market research tools, there are things for every country.
Yep. And how do you deal with when you're in an international environment? So if you've got an international client and you're wanting to talk about personas, how do you just simplify it down?
Well, to that point, if we don't have something that's real specific, like I said, we don't have Simmons for Australia because it's really expensive. So in that case, I would rely on the quasi ad hoc stuff that's based on social media and really rely on the social inventories like I was saying that Marty's going to talk about tomorrow. So there's definitely data out there. Like for example, if you're talking about the social inventories, then Facebook, you can easily change that to Australia and then you see all the data for those people in Australia.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. I can't see. Oh.
Hey, Mike.
Hey, Will.
One question I have for you. So something that we fight a lot is how to prep your team so that they don't make bad pitches. So what are the things that you would recommend for anybody here who's got a team of people who they're working on outreach, link building, and whatnot? Are there workflows? Are there things that you can use to help educate people who are doing outreach?
I don't have any tools. I'd say, the same way that you do outreach for link building is, what you should be doing here. Like, you say that, we're thinking of building this awesome thing for our client, and we want your ideas on it. Like the same way people are saying, do your infographics where you're collaborating with influencers to get them to buy into it. It's the exact same process. But as far as the actual pitch for your team, until they get good at it, I just tell them to watch Mad Men.
Mike, that was awesome, man.
Thank you, Richard.
Wow. I'm going to have to go home and rewrite my presentation. So you shared some new tools, and I'm looking at brokenlinkindex.com. Can I export data? Is there an API or anything like that that I can?
All of that is coming. We really just wanted to make it work for MozCon, but we're going to add way more features. Like I have a whole team that works on this stuff, so we just wanted to make it work right now, but within a week you'll have an export. Within a month you'll have an API.
I love it. Thank you.
No problem. Anything else? I got 9 minutes. Absolutely. It's on MozCon Live. Yeah.
Hi, can you go into some detail about mapping site profiles to demographics?
Yeah, so the whole purpose there is like, for example, on SEO Moz, you have a profile and you have to say like, you know, what do you do? How many hours do you spend a week on SEO? Are you agency side? Are you in-house and what have you? All those data points are essentially things that you can measure against to see how effective whatever you're doing is for a certain group. So if I want to see how many in-house people on SEO Moz use this piece of content as compared to how many people in agencies use this piece of content, I can tell who it's more effective for. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Hey, Mike.
Hey.
So a lot of us are working in agencies and are working with sales teams that are responsible for going out and selling the work that we're going to do. And on the one hand, we have kind of Will espousing the fact that we can do a lot with a little, so we can do a lot with budgets of $500 more than, you know, the traditional media. On the other hand, you know, going to our sales team and saying, this is the kind of preparation we have to do in order to make a pitch like this. This is the research that has to go into it. That's totally counter to the way a lot of people have run their businesses in the past. So I guess it's more of a theoretical question, but how do you strike a balance between the time suck of preparing for the pitch with the uncertainty of whether or not they'll go for it?
I gotta say that I'm definitely like biased because that is like a cost that big agencies take. You see what I'm saying? Like I've worked in big agencies for a while, so we just chalk that up. Like we need to spend this research time to sell it. So I understand like for a smaller agency, it's like, well, we only have X amount of resources, so we need to, you know, scale this or something. To that point, I mean, you could really just scale that initial outreach if you can't afford to spend that much time. So go the whole form letter route and stuff like that, where you're reaching out to these people and not really like spending days to do it. And upsell, so let me tell you about my girlfriend. She is an account director for a huge agency. She used to work at Slingshot SEO, and she is one of the illest salespeople I've ever met in my life. And I'm not even saying that because she's my girlfriend, but like, I go on these type of pitches all the time, and I'll be like, hey, look at this, we're about to do it. She's like, no, that's not gonna work at all. So that's exactly the point. So you can also go into like a pitch with like a smaller offering where you don't have to spend as much time on that, and then over time grow that business into something else where you can afford to spend that time to go on the pitches.
Hi. I've got a question about what would be different for nonprofits that have a lot of less tangible return. You know, some of the results that we're looking for take years or decades to realize, and so we can have some very easy KPIs through Google Analytics and some of those other tools. But how is it different selling to management and partners and whatnot when you don't have the immediate ability to take measurements?
So what are your objectives?
Our objectives are to have large social change, so better healthcare, better education for children, and things that take a very long time to be realized.
So what are your intermediate objectives to realize those objectives?
Well, and those change often, especially as we get into them. We have failures, we have a lot of failures, but then we have a lot of successes. The only problem is even our midterm goals can take a year or two to realize. And so not being an expert in everything that the business does, selling SEO and link building strategies and the effort it takes to develop some RCS in there, I'm not sure how to really communicate that what I'm trying to work on and what I'm trying to exercise what I've learned here today.
So did you just say a whole paragraph and tell me you don't know what your objectives are?
Well, it's how can I, what would be different about what you said today for maybe something that's just less tangible and less easy to prove immediately?
I mean, so to that point, we need a clear understanding of exactly what you're trying to achieve before I can answer that. I mean, without you being able to tell me these are the steps you're in your process to get to changing the world, I can't say, okay, here's what you need to do and here's how we measure it. So that would be the first conversation that we have, is really understanding exactly how that ties into these smaller things and then tie that to the KPIs. So honestly, I can't tell you if you can't tell me, and I'd fire you as a client. Anybody else? Don't be scared.
Let's do it.
Hello, sir. No, it's just me. Sorry. The Kate Morris.
Hey, so hold on, I want to hear this.
Uh-oh.
When is the next album coming out, and is that going to be on it?
I am really busy. I spend all my time trying to change the world for you guys, so I don't really have time to make music right now. But it's coming soon. Huh? Oh yeah, I just bought new studio equipment, so I am working, but this kind of takes precedence right now.
Thank you very much. Awesome. Nice job.